Hi everyone, it's me again. I've been doing a lot of videos today. I want to talk a little bit about this version of Bohemian journals that I'm making. I had decided, I've got so much Bohemian fabric and medallions and things because I love them so much that I had decided I was going to make several different kinds of journals and that I would keep one of each kind because I need to keep some of these pieces for myself. So the first one I did, and there are videos on these, was cardstock with napkin decoupage and then a sheer fabric collage over it. And then it's just a one signature journal, although it's kind of packed full. So that was the first style that I did, and I sold some of those in my shop. And then I did the hardcover book ones. My normal kind of journal is just using vintage book covers. So that's the second type that I made. These are both my journals. And look, you know, pink and coral, these are my colors, and now this one here is going to be my journal out of this batch, and it's got reds and the lining will be more pink. So what I had decided to do for this batch was to use the Kantha Quilt pieces that I got from Selena's shop, AmourFabriques. This is a Kantha Quilt piece. She sells them as book covers. Here's the one that I just made. Well, the journal's it's not finished yet. But what I did was, I made this cover a while ago, but I sewed these smaller pieces together and then sewed them onto this so that I could make a flap here. And I sewed this lining fabric, which is kind of a silky fabric, on, but left the top open and then slid some pieces of cardstock in there, just in these two sections. And I put a pocket on here to give it a little bit of stability. It's got the cardboard in there. And then I thought, you know, I was trying to think of a different way of doing it. I mean, I've done fabric covered journals onto cardstock before, like this one, and I've done them with laces and things. But I want to do the flap too. So where'd the other one go? I just made another cover. Oh, here it is. So for this one, I again sewed the pieces together and sewed them onto the flap, and then I sewed this part to two pieces of cardstock, and then made a piece that would be the liner. So I just took one of the cover pieces and added this strip to it and sewed it on as a liner. And so there's cardstock in here and here, but not on the flap again. So this one is mine, and I decided to make this one a little bit shorter. So I trimmed it, and this part's going to be covered. I'm not crazy about that funky 50s music jazz ensemble thing, but I do love this fabric. So this is the part that we'll be showing. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew this piece together that will be on the flap. I am right next to my tripod, so you know you're going to get jostled. So these are the pieces that I chose to put on the flap. You just got bumped a little. Not quite jostled yet. So I'm just going to use a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch from the edge, or I just use the edge of my presser foot to guide it. Oh, and by the way, I need to show you. You see my sewing machine right there. While I was away, my daughter had a key to my house so she could bring my mail in for me. And so one night, she and her boys and her husband put over 300 googly eyes all over my house. They're in every room. They're everywhere. Look at my stays on. I opened my medicine cabinet, and there's googly eyes on every bottle. They were on my fans. They're they're everywhere, and I'm sure I'm going to keep finding them. There were even great big ones. Well, not great big, but probably that big, on my garage door, which I didn't even notice till the next day, because usually I open the garage door before I even go out. But I happened to look out my back door window, and I was like, are there googly eyes on my garage door? Sure enough, there were. So, I'm still taking googly eyes down. Anyway, let's sew. She's funny. So you probably know when you're sewing, you put your right sides together so that your seam will be on the back. See, these are the sides I want to show, so I put them together. And this piece is just a little bit wider than the two strips, so I'll just trim that off. Okay, now it looks like that. If I had not trimmed this to be a little bit shorter, this would have been the perfect length for it, but I did trim it, so I'm going to have to trim a little bit off of this, but I will sew it on first. So this is, wait, let's do it right. It's going to be flapped over like that. So this is where I need to put this. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it so that the pieces that are sticking off are kind of even, so that I know that the little square part is going to be more centered. I could you know, pin these flat. In fact, I think I will, if I can find my pins. There they are. So the seams where I sewed the pieces together, to decrease bulk, you can open them up, and then that way you'll be sewing them flat. See, like that, instead of off to one side, because it would all be bulky right there. I should sew it with this side facing up. I can't get a hold of a pin so that I can, yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll flip it around. I should have pinned the whole thing together anyway. Okay, so now I have it where I can see the seam. Sorry, I did bump the camera. That way I can make sure that the presser foot doesn't bunch it up there. See, the presser foot folded it over. I don't know how long I'll leave these googly eyes on my sewing machine. So now I'll just trim part that hangs off. I will be putting a cord, a piece of fabric on the journal covers somewhere to wrap around, but I don't think I want to do that until I have the signatures sewn in, because I just can see that those pieces, those long strips, would be just getting in my way probably while I'm sewing the signatures in. So here we have the journal cover, the front part. I like those colors. It looks quite pretty. I have these pieces cut to fit. So I think I'll just trim a tiny bit off the height of this. Okay. And now I'm going to put some Fabri-Tac, or this is, yeah, this is Fabri-Tac. I'm running low on my big bottle here, and it wasn't sitting upside down. Just put a little bit in the center to hold it in place. And now I'm going to sew this on. I'm going to use my zigzag stitch for this. Could have used a straight stitch down that edge, but on the raw edges of the fabric I wanted to use zigzag. So you'll see where the fabric sticks off. I will trim that off. Now this is where the signatures will be sewn, and it's not a problem to have a full piece of folded cardstock and sew through the cardstock. I've done that before. Oops, I don't want to get too close to the edge. I think I did get too close to the edge there. Just because my sewing machine needle will be going through that. Oh, I forgot to trim off. Can't put it in my paper trimmer now because it's got glue. Hope the glue's still wet. my battery is flashing, so you know. If it shuts off suddenly, you'll know why. Alright, so there's that. Let's see what time it is. I told my daughter I would be bringing them some cake. My grandsons love cake, and I made a cake just because I felt like it. And I can't eat it all myself, so I told her I would bring her some, so I have to get going pretty soon. This is just a piece. She didn't sell this piece as a cover. It was wrapped around one of the bundles that I bought. She had a special deal where you got a larger piece. So I'm using this as my liner so that the pink part will show. So again, I will put Fabri-Tac on these parts and then glue it down and then trim around it and sew around it. Oh, but I have to trim the excess fabric off first. Sorry. I have that metal Fitbit on my wrist as my watch, and it clicks on my tripod. Okay, I want to show you something here. As soon as I get rid of all these little scraps that I just trimmed off. You can see it's a little bit wonky here. My cardboard is down a little bit too low. Or too high if you flip it that way. But we can disguise that with a trim around the bottom and at the top. And besides, this one's just for me. But you can disguise things like that. So this is all trimmed around the cardstock. So I'm going to go and I will finish this. I don't know if I'll finish it tonight when I don't know how long I'm going to be at my daughter's. They're carving pumpkins. I don't really plan on sticking around, but you never know. So I might not do any more of this tonight, but I will turn the camera back on when I go to put the lining on this journal cover. So I'll be back. Bye.